Tonight, value for money questions emerge about Revenue Authority's decision to spend $18.5 million to engage private firm to assist it raise more revenue. We tell you why Finance Minister designate has agreed to probe the deal after it emerged Ghana may be paying more to the private firm than we are raising in actual revenue.
He knew some of the officials in Mackenzie before he became finance minister, is that right?
That's correct.
About $18.5 million. If you look at what came up since their engagement, it's far less than this.
Well, I will look at this and therefore take appropriate measures.
Plus, why did the finance minister designate visit former special prosecutor Martin Amidu at his home at the time the Ijapa deal was a subject of a corruption risk assessment?
While I was writing the report, didn't he come to this house? What did I tell him? Should I come out?
Yes, so I did visit him. I didn't feel that the issues at play stopped me from visiting him.
This is Top Story with Evans Mensah.
And Top Story is always brought to you by Gassim Cement, the nation builder. It's also brought to you by Belacqua Mineral Water. After 2 days of vetting, the fate of Finance Minister designate Ken Ofori-Atta is set to be decided by the entire House of Parliament following hours of interrogation, mainly by minority NDC MPs on the Appointments Committee. Leading the questioning was Minority Chief Whip Muntaka Mubarak, who raised value for money questions with the Ghana Revenue Authority's decision to spend $18.5 million to engage the private firm, Mackenzie, to assist it raise more revenue. Now, Mr. Ofori-Atta agreed to probe the deal after Mr. Mubarak disclosed that the GRA may be paying more to the private firm than they are raising in actual revenue. He also questions Mr. Ofori-Atta's relationship with some of the officials of the private firm. Listen to the exchange.
Mr. Chairman, yesterday when he was answering the question, he said he knew some of the officials in Mackenzie before he became finance minister. Is that right?
That's correct. Mr. Chairman, I guess from my point, I would like to understand whether A, consultants are not able to help entities, or B, there's a feeling of self-dealing. Is that why these questions are being asked? Or D, they are incompetent for that? Because I get nervous when one begins to throw different issues leading to a certain image that will hurt maybe the objectives of that. So I would like some clarity on what this is about.
Mr. Chairman, unfortunately, I do the asking, you do the answering. The Mackenzie consultancy with GRA, how was it procured?
That will be the process that GRA put into place for that to occur. I'll have to get advice on that from GRA.
Do you know how much was involved in the consultancy with Mackenzie with GRA?
I don't have the rates with me.
You've not heard that it's about $18.5 billion US. You've not heard that. You are the finance minister. GRA works under you. They procure for consultancy worth $18.5 million, and the finance minister is not aware.
I don't know the efficacy of that number, but I can check on that.
Since Mackenzie engaged GRA, has the revenue target set for Mackenzie to be able to achieve, was it realized?
As to whether they have met sometimes the high expectations that we have exacted on them, no. But I think in 2020 were quite impressed with what they did given the COVID impact.
Considering the amount paid out to this consultancy firm, vis-a-vis what they could help GRA raise, does not defeat the basic canon of taxation of economy, that the cost of collection should not exceed the amount raised, about $18.5 million. If you look at what came up since their engagement, it's far less than this. So it's making it look as though their engagement has not really brought more than what they have been paid for. Will you consider going into this? And possibly, if there's some overpayment, you get them retrieved.
I will look at this and therefore take appropriate measures as required.
Well, Mr. Mubarak also probed him on how a law firm belonging to his cousin, Gabi Asaroch-Dako, won a contract as part of the controversial Ijapa royalties deal.
What is the relationship between you and the President, His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo?
Okay, I believe that Nana Oforiatta had some 25 wives or so, and therefore maybe 100 or so children. One of the daughters was the sister, half-sister of my father, and so we are cousins.
So you are cousins. And not the same way, what is the relation between you and Gabi Asaroch-Dako?
Cousins, similar.
Similar, it's also a cousin.
Grandfather's daughter is the mother.
Which law firm was a legal advisor in the Ijapa transaction deal?
The law firms, quite a number of them.
So a number of them, and does that include that of Gabi Asaroch-Dako?
Yes, Africa Legal Associates.
And this UK law firm is also related to Gabi Asaroch-Dako?
The UK law firm, White and Case, I know gave a transaction to Africa Legal Associates.
How were these law firms procured?
I think that the process was, as far as I know, because I did not participate personally in all of that transaction, was done appropriately.
So I just want to find out if he said that the right processes were followed, then that would mean there will be an evaluation report that arrive at these law firms, right?
Whatever needs to be done will be done. I mean, I truly do not constrive that anything was done wrongly.
Well, still on the Ijapa royalties deal, you recall before former Special Prosecutor Martin Amadou resigned after his corruption risk assessment report, he had disclosed in an interview with City News that Mr. Oforiatta, who was then the finance minister, had visited him and he threatened to wash their dirty linen in public.
The fact that you are in government doesn't mean that when you are dissatisfied with the report, you go after the person of the fellow. Look, the Minister for Finance has been my friend for years. Why will I go for him? While I was writing the report, didn't he come to this house? Was he not here on the 21st of October? What did I tell him? Why is he now sending out information about me and budgets and all that? Should I come out? Let's stop it before we wash dirty linens in public.
Well, today, Mr. Oforiatta got the opportunity to clarify why he visited the special prosecutor at the time Mr. Amadou was in the process of writing his corruption risk assessment on the Ijapa deal.
I've known the special prosecutor for a while. It wasn't the first time that I was going to his home. Yes, so I did visit him. I had gone to the office on a Friday in which they indicated to me that he was not feeling well and was not at work. So I believe on the Saturday morning, the next day, I did go to visit.
And did you see him?
I did go to visit and I saw him.
And what was the visit intended for? Because you knew he was around that time investigating the issue with regards to the corruption assessment that he was doing, and you were visiting him around that time. What was it intended for?
Well, I didn't know that. I didn't feel that the issues at play stopped me from visiting him. He was not well, and that was important for that to be. I also had supplied Ministry of Finance quite a bit of information to him, and at times he had written that he wasn't getting the information as quickly as he wanted. So there was a need in my mind to also bridge that gap if there was an issue. I think we all know that Mr. Amidou is a very independent person, and so to ascribe being able to influence him by what you say or not, we as a nation know that, and so I wouldn't say that that was an attempt to change his views or anything of that matter.
Mr. Chairman, I just heard the Minister nominee say we have provided him with a lot of information from the Ministry of Finance. Is that right?
Yes, which was being basically processed by my deputy minister at that time.
Yeah, so, Mr. Chairman, if I heard him in an answer yesterday where he said the special prosecutor never gave him the opportunity to be heard, and that was against natural justice, is it fair to the special prosecutor saying that you provided him with a lot of information, you visited him in the house, even though he was sick, and you wanted to close the gap between whatever you've given him and maybe the information that he was having and how he was processing it? Would that be fair to say that he hasn't heard your side?
Absolutely. There's a difference between taking technical information and sitting down with me to go through the information and for me to explain things. We also propose that we do a presentation to him, which we were not allowed to do.
I want to bring in now the man who led the questioning, of course, as part of the leadership of the minority on the appointments committee, Mensah Mubarak. He's also the minority chief whip. Mr. Mubarak, thank you for your time here on Top Story after 2 days of vetting. Call it unprecedented. I'm pretty sure I will not be wrong if I say so.
Yeah, good evening to you and your listeners. You're rightly so. I've been on this committee for long. We've never had this kind of marathon.
So it's done now. Has the committee had an opportunity to sit to consider what to do?
No, we have budgets. A lot of members were running to their committee rooms. You could see that by the time we finished, there were a few of us. Even myself, when I finished, I had to run to another committee. So by the time I came back, they had just finished. They made them on the corridor. So I know the opportunity will come because Parliament is still sitting tomorrow, and we have up to Tuesday to finish our work.
Happy with the responses you got to your questions?
Well, let me say, why is it happy? I don't know whether to say I'm happy or not. It's just to say that there's something that I noticed during this whole vetting of most of our ministers. And I think that maybe as a political group, we need to look at it. That's you are a minister and you have agencies under you, and a lot of times people don't pay attention to what agencies under them are really doing when you are supposed to provide oversight, and they are supposed to provide you with annual reports which you will have to peruse and then forward to Parliament. You saw in many instances the ministers, when you try to probe them, go into the work of agencies under them, and then you just have this, I'll have to check, I'm not really aware, this is coming to me for the first time. And many of them, interestingly, when I check from Parliament, maybe that one too, partly Parliament has to be blamed. For 4 years, some of the ministers have not brought the annual report of their agencies, and we didn't notice it. I think these are some of the things that I would say we need to pay attention if we really want our democracy to serve the people that we represent. That you cannot be a minister and agencies under you are doing things that involves a lot of money, and you don't pay attention to the nitty gritty. So that at least, if for nothing, you should have some minimum briefing that will enable you to know exactly what they are doing. Yes, I mean, we know you are not going to be sitting there running those agencies day to day, but at least you need to be able to set some standard or some minimum requirements such that if certain decisions have to be taken, yes, they have boss, you as the minister at least should be filling. And then if you look at when we are making the laws, that's why we say the minister representative, so that you place somebody there who will have to be updating you or from the board what they are doing. But unfortunately, you notice that a lot of the agencies under him, I mean, you are mentioning things and it looks like
And one of them is
he's not
Mackenzie.
aware.
Mackenzie,
Yes,
you mentioned,
yes,
you put to him that it cost GRA and the taxpayer $18.5 million. He says he will check that for you. And then
yes.
you eventually got him to admit to probe because you had raised the question about what they've raised in terms of revenue for the state is less than what we're actually paying them. I wonder, uh, how do you manage to get these facts? And in fact, are those figures factual?
Well, I mean, you see, the interesting thing is that the work that we do as members of parliament requires a lot of, reaching out to people. And you see, when Evans, you are granting interview and I'm listening, and there's something that comes as a headline, I will quickly look, who do I know who is here or who can get me this information? Then I will try and use the parliamentary process to get what I can get. And then I also try to use any other means to get further information, because one of the things that I try to avoid as much as possible is to come up with an issue where you are not really conversant and you don't have the full facts. It's worrying. Unfortunately, you have a lot of CEOs, society organization. If something comes on energy, I'll be quick, or mining, I'll be quick to also, if it's something about governance, I'll be willing to talk to INEC or CDD and what have you. And they will tell you, you are constantly reaching out to many of them about one information or the other. So that's how we try to gather the information. It's very tiring, it's very stressful. Sometimes you go and then you get stuck yourself. And once you get stuck, you don't get the full of it. You are also being careful, because you see, people have integrity, and you have to be very careful not to mar their integrity.
Mr. Morgan, I wonder though, because the fundamental point you raise about Mackenzie goes beyond what the finance minister can tell you at the committee level. It's a fundamental thing about value for money. He's assured that he'll bring you some information. He says he'll probe. Does it end at today's vetting, or the minority side plan to follow up and give your constituents and this great republic updates
Well,
on
obviously,
that?
this is something that you know that I've been very interested in this McKenzie thing since 2017. You remember, if you go toward the vetting, where we got to know they were working in that office, and I asked him then as a nominee, and he said, "Oh, they were doing it on gratis, so we are not paying them anything." But I knew very well that there cannot be any free lunch anyway. That if I come to Joy FM and then I'll tell you that, oh, I'm coming to help you, assist you with all your parliamentary related issues, and then you give me a space and I'm helping you, and I have to drive there, drive back home, do a lot of things, gather information, you bring them, and I tell you that I'm not taking anything. For me, that tells me to pay attention to whatever is there. So for me, I've been following up on this maternity because, like you said, let me say, there was one thing that I can say compared to many of the nominees that appear before us, is when it comes to those that I know are his friends, he hasn't denied any, that he didn't know them. He said, I know them. And for me, that's something that, if for nothing, I can't take away from him. I know he has friendship. He said, yes, they are my friends. But the work that they are doing, are they do they procure it through legitimate means? Well, some he says he's not able to tell. I know a number of them. Yes, sole sourcing is a legitimate means if those persons services that they are providing is unique and they are those that can do it best. But you still have to go through the procurement processes and what have you. But where I believe that you can do open tender so that others will also come in and you still do sole sourcing. Yes, you might have still gone through the procurement PPA for them to give you approval and other things, but you could have done open tendering, and maybe that could give us a better value for money. And with regards to GRA, we will be following up. I can assure you, our colleagues on the finance committee, we're in constant touch, and we will be following up to ensure that, as he promised, that he was going to look into this mercenary thing with GRA is looked into.
And as you say that your colleague, Deputy Minority Whip from the MPP side, Alexander Fenyomarking, joins us now. Mr. Fenyomarking, thank you for your time here on Top Story. Your assessment of the performance of the Finance Minister after 2 days of vetting?
Evans, how did you introduce me? You said I am...
Oh, Deputy Leader. Pardon me,
I
Deputy
said I'm
Leader.
Minority Whip.
You
were talking to the chief...
Minority
Whip for the minority.
And you are the deputy leader for the majority side, definitely. Yes, your assessment.
Very well. So we've done 2 days of vetting. I think the atmosphere of mutual respect was very obvious. There was a clear sense of cooperation from both sides, and I think that as politicians, if we move in this direction of respecting principles and agreeing to disagree, we can make this country better. Yes, opposition is not required to sing along with government. In fact, if that even happens, the country will collapse. So the checks and balances, though it's constitutional, but the opposition voices can be louder and can rather pinch you the more to do that which is right. Of course, that's what is required. So I'm happy we've had a good engagement. Like Mr. Muntaka Mubarak said, the man was very sincere and he told us, what he has to tell us to the best of his knowledge. But the strong point here is the fact that this is a man who was unwell, he's back, so poised to serve his nation. I think that bit has not been emphasized. Sometimes people say, oh, but this man is not well, why would he still worry himself? Go back to the American dream. The average American is proud to have served his nation. Can we use this Kenoforiata story as a new beginning of turning our national orientation around? Patriotism. Must you be in absolute state of fitness to serve your nation? Or you must have that courage of purpose, what I call spiritus invictus, unconquerable spirit, your desire, your satisfaction being your ability to serve your nation up to your last breath. I think this is what Mr. Foriata has done, and we must all be proud of effort, no matter what.
So, when does the committee hope to sit down and write a report on whether or not to recommend his approval?
Well, I think it's only one nominee. We've taken a decision, and we've taken a decision.
What was the decision?
And I'm sure the decision will be known to the Ghanaian public very soon.
To approve?
We have taken a decision.
When you say we, you mean the majority side or the both sides?
No. I'm saying that the committee has taken a decision.
Oh, you have already?
The decision will be communicated. Yes, we have. Immediately after he left, it took us no less than, many minutes.
Is it consensus or is it both sides? Is it unanimous?
We have taken a decision. Once the chairman of the committee will do his job, I can take away the work of my boss. But what I know and what I can tell you and can confirm is that we have taken a decision, and that decision will be communicated.
I mean, I know you're constrained in sharing what decision is, but I wonder just if you can share whether this decision is both sides of the House united in a
Yes,
unanimous
I'm
decision.
saying that a decision has been taken by the committee,
Okay.
and a decision will be communicated by the chairman of the committee at the appropriate time. But we have taken a decision.
Mr. Mubarak, the decision has been taken. That is, of course, a reflection of your view as well. Hello, Mr. Mubarak. Hello, Mr. Mubarak. I think I may have lost him there. So because of the tight timelines you have, Mr. Fenyomarking, and I understand you're rising on Tuesday, this will definitely have to be done with some expedition. When do you hope for this to come to the floor for a final plenary decision?
Well, once we've taken a decision, the rest are merely procedural. And tomorrow we are sitting, so what is expected to be done will be done. But as you are well aware, we are rising on Tuesday, of course, after taking a decision on the appropriation bill. So it is expected that, as the decision has been taken, the communication will become public once the internal procedures are followed in the parliament, and then of course the nominee would also be on notice of the decision taken.
Considering what happened with the first batch of ministers and the big deal about voting and not voting and rejecting, do you expect this to go down again to a head count or a vote, or this is something that you expect to sail through based on what you know had happened tonight?
Repeat your question.
I'm just asking, based on what happened with the first batch of ministers that went into this conversation around rejecting some and then voting on some, what's your expectation on this one?
Nobody was ever rejected.
No, I know. I mean, there was just a controversy.
There hasn't been any rejection.
True. I'm just saying that the controversy leading into the final decision. Do you expect this to, be one that sails through without that sort of controversy around it on the floor?
No, we didn't go through any controversy when we're taking decision.
On the floor. Remember, the minority side wrote a long statement.
The convention, the convention or the practice has always been that when the committee takes a decision, plenary indifference respect that.
Yeah, in fact, I'm actually referring to what happened on the floor with the three ministers who you guys had to vote on. I'm asking whether you expect or don't expect that this final one may go through the same process.
Well, there are two ways here. You have consensus or unanimity, and then you have, say, majority and all that. So, depending on which decision that is taken, for instance, if it's consensus or by unanimous decision, once the report is read, is presented, and through a motion, and it's seconded, and there's a debate thereafter, the next step is a voice, vote. That's it, But if it is a majority decision, obviously, after the debate, it is expected that a vote will be taken by way of secret ballots.
Well, grateful to hear the details of what is about to happen with the finance minister. That is Alexander Afenyo-Marking. You're still here live on Joy 99.7 FM.
It's 6 p.m.